Hey, welcome back. Big roster avalanche dropped today, and the biggest headline is the one everyone's been waiting on. Rashee Rice has agreed to a 6-game suspension to open the 2025 season, which makes him eligible to return in Week 7 against the Las Vegas Raiders. That settlement closes the disciplinary uncertainty that had been hanging over the team. And while it's far from ideal, there are some real silver linings here. First, let's be blunt. 6 games is a meaningful chunk of the schedule. But it's a lot better than what many feared earlier this offseason when reports suggested the league wanted a double-digit ban. The fact that Rice accepted a settlement means the club knows exactly when he'll be back. That's huge for planning. You can pencil him in for Week 7 and map out who fills his snaps leading up to that point. From a play-calling standpoint, this changes things but doesn't break the offense. The Chiefs have shown throughout the Andy Reid era they can adapt when a top target is unavailable. They'll lean more on the remaining receivers and tight ends early and expect more short-area, high-percentage looks to keep drives moving. Schematically, this is a time to let the pass catchers who earn the trust of the QB run crisp routes, and for the running game to eat some clock while the receivers ramp up. That's the practical fix for the first month and a half. Fantasy heads should adjust Rice's early season value accordingly. Another big thing, Rice's suspension, lines up almost like a built-in rehab window. He missed large parts of 2024 with injury. Getting the first 6 games off gives him time to be fully ready when he returns. The emotional boost of a mid-season return, fresh legs, and a player who's had time to focus on football could mean he comes back in better shape than if he'd been rushed to play Week 1. That's not to excuse what happened or downplay the seriousness of the situation, but it's a realistic way to view the on-field timeline. Now, what does this mean for Week 1 and the early schedule? Expect the Chiefs to prioritize consistency and assignments. Coaches hate scrambling on opening weekend. The difference here is that they now know Rice won't be available for the opener through the first 6 games. So roster moves and practice reps will be given with that in mind. That affects who makes the active roster and who gets opportunities on special teams. For you watching, it means we're going to see some different faces early on. And that's part of why the new practice squad signings matter. The Chiefs didn't just stop with finalizing the 53-man roster. Right after cuts came through, they got busy building out the practice squad. And there are some very interesting names in this group, including veterans, depth insurance, and even a familiar face or two. Let's go through the highlights and why they matter. First off, Robert Tonyan was spotted practicing even though he wasn't on the initial 53. That tells you the team wants him around and that a practice squad spot is likely being saved. The same goes for Mike Pennel, though his situation is a little cloudier, which I'll touch on later. The key takeaway is this. For veterans with accrued years, the Chiefs don't have to risk losing them to waivers. They can simply sign them to the squad once the roster is set. That's why you'll often see surprise cuts that don't really stick. It's just roster mechanics. Looking at the official signings, we've got quarterback, Chris Oladokun, which makes sense. Teams love having a developmental QB stashed. Then there's running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire back in Kansas City. Yes, you heard that right. Clyde has returned, but only to the practice squad. I'll go deeper on him in a moment, but just know, this isn't a move that guarantees playing time. It's low risk, low commitment depth. The squad also features fullback Carson Steele, wide receivers Hal Presley and Jimmy Holiday, and tight end Trey Watson. On the offensive line, the Chiefs added C.J. Hansen and international exemption player Chu Godric. That exemption is important because it allows the Chiefs to carry one extra body without using up a standard practice squad slot. It's like a free development spot, and those can pay off a year or two down the line. Defensively, the team grabbed tackles Kobe Izzard, Marlon Tuipulotu, and Broderick Martin. Martin being a recent Lions lineman who might offer some real competition. At linebacker, Cole. Christiansen made the cut, and in the secondary, there's Kevin Knowles at corner and veteran Mike Edwards at safety. Edwards is basically filling the Dion Bush role from last year, providing a steady backup who knows the system. The overall theme here is balance. You've got young prospects who may never play a snap, but are here to learn, and you've got seasoned vets who could step into a game on short notice. That's exactly what you want out of a practice squad. With Rice suspended and a couple of positions thinner than usual, don't be surprised if one or two of these names see game day action early in the season. Now let's talk about the headline reunion that had fans buzzing. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back in a Chiefs uniform. The former first-round pick is officially on the practice squad, and while that doesn't guarantee playing time, it's still a fascinating move for a team that knows him inside and out. Here's the thing about Clyde. The production never really matched his draft status. Injuries piled up, and eventually he lost his role in the running back rotation. That's why this reunion is interesting. It's not about resurrecting his career as a starter. It's about adding insurance and familiarity to a position group that can get thin quickly. A practice squad role keeps him around the building, but without the pressure of being the guy. The running back room right now already has defined roles. Isaiah Pacheco is the workhorse. Jerick McKinnon is the situational veteran when healthy, and the rest of the snaps get spread around as needed. Clyde doesn't change that hierarchy. What he does offer is plug-and-play knowledge of Andy Reid's system. If injuries hit, he won't need weeks of catching up to step in. From a coaching perspective, that's a safety blanket you can trust. There's also a locker room element to this. Clyde was a respected teammate. Players liked him, he understood the culture, and he fit the Chiefs' way of doing things. That matters when you're filling practice squad spots. The goal isn't just finding the most talented body, it's keeping the right personalities in the building. That said, unless disaster strikes in the backfield, you probably won't see much of Clyde on Sundays. This isn't a comeback story where he's suddenly getting 15 touches a game. It's more of a quiet reunion that gives the Chiefs insurance and continuity. Now let's tackle the Mike Pennel situation, which has been raising eyebrows across the Chiefs fan base. According to reporting from Sam McDowell of the Kansas City Star, Pennel isn't expected to be on the initial practice squad. That's a bit surprising given his veteran presence and past contributions, especially when you consider the Chiefs recently traded for Derek Nady, who doesn't necessarily have a stronger track record. So, what's going on here? There are a few ways to look at it. First, roster mechanics and depth chart strategy play a role. If the Chiefs felt they could replace Pennel's snaps with someone else on the practice squad or active roster, that might explain the move. But there's also the risk factor. A veteran of Pennel's caliber has options. If he doesn't make the active roster, he might decide to test the market elsewhere rather than sign back onto the practice squad. That's a real possibility, and it could affect the team's depth if injuries hit early. It's worth noting the broader defensive line picture. With Rashee Rice suspended and the team's offensive adjustments in mind, the Chiefs need a reliable rotation on the defensive side too. Nady and other younger players have to step up, but losing a seasoned rotational guy like Pennel could create short-term stress. This is where Brett Veach and Steve Spagnuolo's experience really comes into play. They need to balance development with immediate capability, and for now, that seems to mean prioritizing other players over Pennel. Looking at the big picture, these roster moves tell us two things. One, the Chiefs are actively managing risk and depth while keeping salary and roster flexibility in mind. And two, they're building in contingencies for the first 6 games without Rice. That's why the practice squad signings and the timing of Rice's suspension actually connect. Everything feeds into the same strategy of maintaining competitive balance while planning for mid-season reinforcements. Quick fan interaction. Would you keep Mike Pennel if you were making the call? Yes or no? And while you're thinking about that, drop a one-sentence gripe about the 53-man roster. I want to hear what fans think, because honestly, there are going to be strong opinions on who made it and who didn't. Finally, if you've been enjoying this kind of daily insight and want to keep up with every roster move, training camp update, and player news, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We're under 5,000 subscribers and building one of the strongest Chiefs fan communities on YouTube. Every click counts, and sharing this with a friend helps even more. That wraps up our deep dive into Rashee Rice's suspension, the practice squad, Clyde Edwards-Helaire's return, and the roster questions surrounding Pennel. The Chiefs may have surprises ahead, but now you've got the full picture to follow every twist and turn this season. Go Chiefs!